If you're listening to this right now and you've accepted the clicks in your knees, the stiffness in your back, and the groans you make just to get off the couch as a natural part of life, I need you to stop. You don't lack a younger body. You lack a decision. You've decided that your best days are behind you physically, and because of that, you've stopped being the person in charge of your own health. It's not your age that's the problem. It's your behavior. You're living as if you are wearing out, and I'm here to tell you it's a lie. You are not out of miles. Your body has just lost its rhythm. Today, we're going to change that. I want to give you a real plan to fix how you move so that you can stop negotiating with your pain and start actually living again. My goal is to get you moving the way you were meant to. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Better Body Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Andy. I'm a 14-year veteran, a personal trainer, and a first aid and CPR instructor. I've spent my life in high-pressure situations where your body had to work. Whether I was in uniform or in the gym, I've seen what happens when people lose their mobility. Now I spend my time teaching people how to keep their bodies functional so that they don't end up as a victim in one of the emergency situations that I teach people how to handle. We aren't just here to talk about looking better, we are here to talk about moving better and being able to live your life for as long as possible. Let's get into the plan. Let's talk about why you feel like you are falling apart. Most of us have this idea that our body is kind of like a car, that you've only got so much tread on the tires and once it's gone, it's gone. But that thought process is genuinely a trap. You feel a little grit in your knee one morning and your brain immediately flags it as a threat. So what's your response? What do? You stop squatting. You stop reaching for things. You stop taking the stairs. You think you're protecting yourself, but in reality, you're actually creating a habit of avoiding movement that is literally starving your joints. The real problem isn't the pain, it's the negotiation. Every single morning, you wake up and you start to deal with your own stiffness. You ask your lower back for permission to tie your shoes. You ask your ankles for permission to walk down the stairs. You've shifted who you are from someone who moves to someone who is just managing their decline. You are managing your own physical rust, and your nervous system is helping you do it by tightening every muscle around your joints to protect them. We need to understand that the grittiness that you feel isn't bone wearing away. It's a lack of movement. Most people focus on the big stuff, moving your arms, moving your legs. We call this osteokinematics. It's just a description of bone movement, like the flexion and extension that you see in the mirror. But behind the scenes are the points where the two bones actually touch. That is the interaction between the bone surfaces, what we call arthrokinematics. Your bones don't just swing or hang there. They roll, they slide, and they spin. And when you stop moving, you lose that roll. You lose that slide. And when you lose those, your body doesn't just age, it seizes up. You aren't fragile. You've just adapted to being a statue. I learned this the hard way during a time in my life that forced me to look at the human body differently. I was stationed in Washington State, and every morning we would go out onto the ocean and conduct what we called a bar report. For those that don't know what a bar report is, let me explain. Sometimes as early as 4:30 in the morning, my alarm would go off in the pitch black. It was that damp, freezing Pacific Northwest cold that feels like it's trying to settle inside your bones. There was no time for coffee. There was no slow morning. You would literally jump up out of your bed, change straight into your cold weather gear, and you would head down onto the boat. Our job was to essentially check wave height, wind speed, direction, so that we could inform the local fishermen the conditions of the bar to let them know whether or not it was safe to transit through. Within minutes, we were out on the water hitting these massive swells. The boat would literally rise up and then slam down off the top of a wave. Now here's the thing. I was young, and when you're in your early 20s, you can take those hits. The boat hits the water, your body absorbs the shock, and you just keep on going. It didn't hurt me yet, but I was surrounded by guys who had been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years. I would look at the older bosun's mates, the guys who had spent their entire careers on those decks. They were the ghost of Christmas future for me. They had slipped discs. They had knee surgery after knee surgery. I watched them walk, and they were stiff. They were in genuine daily pain. Their bodies were broken because they had spent decades absorbing those swells while their joints were cold and their internal mechanics were essentially locked shut. They were hitting those waves before their joints were oiled and before their bones were ready to roll. I saw that brokenness, and I knew I wanted no part of it. I realized that if I didn't learn how the body actually functions internally, I was going to end up just like them, negotiating with my own back just to stand up. Now, you may not be on a boat at 4:30 in the morning like I was, but I promise you, your life is slamming your joints every single day. You don't even know it. Think about it. You roll out of bed, your body is cold, and you haven't moved in 8 hours. Your internal lubricant, that synovial fluid, is thick and stagnant. Then you head to work. You sit in a chair for 3 hours straight. That is a swell. You are compressing your joints in one position, starving the cartilage of nutrients. Then, maybe you decide to be a weekend warrior. You haven't prepped your joints all week, and suddenly you go for a run, or you try to move a heavy piece of furniture. That is a massive slam to your system. Because you haven't oiled the hinges, your bones are not rolling smoothly like a tire on the road. They are skidding. They are slamming into each other, just like that boat slamming into the Pacific. This is how we end up in our 40s and 50s with bad knees or a bad back. It's not the age, it's the decades of hitting life's swells without being ready for them. I'm going to break down the 5 steps of how to reset your movement. These are the things you're going to do to stop the skidding in your life and get your joints working again. The first thing we have to fix is morning stiffness. Everyone experiences this. When you sleep, you are not moving. Because you are still, the natural lubricant inside your joints, your synovial fluid, gets really thick. If you jump up out of bed and you start hitting the swells of your day immediately, your bones cannot roll the way they are supposed to. They skid. That skidding is what creates that gritty feeling in your knees or your shoulders. It's literally the bone surfaces rubbing together because the lubricant is not ready. Before your feet even hit the floor tomorrow, spend 60 seconds doing this slow, unweighted rotation. Rotate your ankles in circles, circle your knees, move your wrists. This uses the spinning movement. Think about your forearm for a second. There is a spinning movement where the head of your radius bone rotates on the end of your humerus during pronation and supination. That's just turning your palm up and down. By spinning those joints while you're still in bed, you are acting as a physical pump. You are thinning out that fluid and pushing it into the joint. You are prepping the hinges before the day starts. This makes sure that when you stand up, your bones can actually roll the way they are supposed to instead of grinding. The second step is about how you align those bones during your day. We squat all the time, sitting in a chair, getting in the car, picking up a bag. Most people will allow their knees to wobble or cave inward. But when you do that, you are changing where the bones actually touch. You are forcing your femoral condyle, which is your thigh, to slide across the tibial condyle, which is your shin, at an angle that they were not made for. You are causing friction where it should not be. Every time you sit or stand, just look down. Make sure your knees stay lined up with your middle toes. This keeps the bones in their proper tracks. It allows the movement to be smooth. When you stay in this track, you cut out that friction. You're not just strengthening your knees yet, you are just stopping the damage. You are keeping movement aligned. The third step is understanding that your muscles move your bones. But if those muscles are always tight, they are pulling your bones together with too much force. They are cranking up the pressure inside the joint. When a joint is squeezed too tight, there's no room for the bones to slide or glide the way they were meant to. They are pressed together so hard that every step you take creates friction. You feel tight, but it's actually your muscles clamping your joints shut. Take a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. Spend 5 minutes a day pressing it into the muscles around your joints, your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, your calves. You're not stretching, you are telling the nervous system to let the muscle go. When that muscle does let go, the pressure in the joint drops. This creates the space that the bones need to roll and slide correctly. You are letting the pressure out of the system. The fourth step is a rule I live by myself. Your cartilage is like a sponge. It doesn't have its own blood supply. It doesn't get fed by your heart. It only gets nutrients when you physically move. When you compress the joint, you squeeze all the waste out. And when you release it, that sponge soaks up all the fresh fluid, all the nutrients it needs. If you sit at a desk for 4 hours, at a time, you are essentially squeezing that sponge dry and holding it there in place. You are literally starving your joints. It's not age that's hurting you, it's a lack of movement. To fix this, just simply set a timer every 30 minutes and then change your position. If you've been sitting, stand up. If your knees have been bent, straighten them. If you have been reaching forward, reach back and spin your arms out. You are feeding the sponge. You are giving your cartilage what it needs to stay healthy and resilient. And then finally, we have to talk about the physical makeup of your body, because cartilage is mostly water. If you are dehydrated, that padding gets really thin and brittle, which increases the likelihood of grinding. This may sound super simple and basic, but it's often overlooked and tossed to the side like it's unimportant. Drink your water. I know it sounds simple, but you cannot have healthy joint mechanics in a dehydrated body. It is actually impossible. Hydration is the most basic requirement for your joints to function. It keeps the synovial fluid thin and the cartilage thick and spongy enough to do its job. I want you to think about the people you love. Who do you love the most? Think about where you want to be 20 years from now. If you keep negotiating with your stiffness, if you keep accepting this idea that you're just the person with bad knees, where does that end you up? I'll tell you where it ends you up. It ends you up with you on the sidelines. It ends you up with you watching your grandkids play from a chair instead of being out there with them. Your world gets smaller and smaller until it's just the distance between your bed and your recliner. Don't let that be your story. You were built to move. You were built to be active. The discipline I learned in Washington wasn't about taking the hits. It was about preparing the body for them. You owe it to the people who depend on you to stay functional. You owe it to your future self to stop that grind today. In my first aid classes, I teach people how to save a life. But what I'm telling you today is how to save your quality of life before it becomes a problem. You have more ability left than you think, but you have to stop damaging the system today. Here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Stop negotiating with yourself. Start this plan right now. There's no reason you can't. Tonight, put a lacrosse ball and a full bottle of water next to your bed. Tomorrow morning, don't just jump out of bed. Spend 60 seconds rotating the joints. Get the fluid moving. That first squat of your day, when you stand up to head to the kitchen, check your alignment, look down, keep your knees over the toes. And drink that water. Finish that bottle before you can even leave the room. And then the timer. The moment you get to work, you must set your 30-minute alarm the second you sit down at your desk. Stop waiting for a pain-free day to start moving. Movement is the price you pay for a pain-free life. You have the psychology. You have the science. I gave you the tips. Now, you just need to move. I'm Andy. This has been the Better Body Fitness Podcast. Take care of your body. Pay attention to how your joints are moving. You are doing better than you think, but you can be better than who you are. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Stay active.